Starting. So we are now live. It's Dr. Sarah Larsen in the house. I've got some of the most beautiful hearts. One I happen to be married to, and he was actually the first person that came across my path that was walking his walk. His name's Greg Roach, such a cute, adorable, sweet, strong man, and we are, and I refer to him as baby, as we've got another Greg on this broadcast with you. We are going to be covering A Course in Miracles, and we're really doing this for you because it's meant so much to us. I've been a student with the Course in Miracles since about 2003. Greg Roach, who is also in the house and broadcasting with us, has been a student. And Greg Roach channels the Great White Brotherhood, also known as the Council of Light. He leads groups all over the world with Spirit Quest tours. Greg Larsen, or Baby, has Living with Tolle, and both are just amazing teachers of love and of presence and everything I believe the Course in Miracles, A Course in Miracles stands for. So welcome, you guys.
Yay!
Yay! Thank you. Thank you.
So Greg Larsen, just because I mentioned you first, with Living with Tolle, you're really, what has A Course in Miracles meant to you so far?
Well, I think, for the most part, a lot of the spiritual teachers that have affected my life and the spiritual teachings have all been inspired in some way by A Course in Miracles. And so, the teachers that I resonate with are Eckhart Tolle, Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, and all of those teachers, plus many more, have been affected deeply by the Course. So I have not myself had a chance to go through all the lessons as a lot of people have, and so I'm really looking forward in being a student this time around, of course, and sharing my reflections as we go across these, but I'm really looking forward to experiencing what the Course is and seeing how, at this point in my life, on my spiritual journey, what new insights and reflections come about because of this experience. So I'm very excited to be on this journey with both you and Greg, and to explore the Course and to see how it affects my life.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And Greg Roach, I'm so excited for you to share what the Course in Miracles means to you as well.
Well, for me, it is one of the most potent, powerful, effective spiritual technologies that I think I've ever encountered. And the way that it transforms our awareness of life and the truth behind life, so that we are able to approach other people and all of the circumstances that we encounter from a place of the heart, as opposed to a place of the mind, I think is extremely valuable.
And I think that's so beautiful. Course in Miracles has given me such a beautiful sense of peace and such a new relationship with myself and with those around me. What I've learned in the Course is really to redefine things. And I hear both of you, Greg, you very much as coming in with fresh eyes looking at this, and Greg Roach coming in with so much expertise and wisdom in this area. The way that the Course in Miracles came out was it became as a sudden decision of two people to join in a common goal. And so for you that's watching this, I just want you to know that our common goal is for you to have an easy sort of navigation through these really deep concepts and these great exercises that the Course in Miracles lays out. There's 3 parts to the Course in Miracles. There's a beautiful book. There is the basically daily work the workbook and then redefinitions that happens. And the three of us are making time in our schedule. I know, Greg Roach, you're around the world and you're doing this. Greg Larsen, I see how much you're doing, myself as well. We're doing this for those that are watching. We're coming together, and the founders, the ones that wrote it, their relationship with each other was difficult and often strained. And they were concerned with personal and professional acceptance and status. And as a medical doctor that reads palms and talks about things that other people don't see on a regular basis, I really struggled with acceptance and accepting myself and what I saw happening. And A Course in Miracles really allowed me to find the energy and the resources within myself, the love and forgiveness and redefining of things, so that I would accept myself and share what I saw and what I know and what I've experienced without fear and hesitation, because I'm anchored in this place of love. And that's what I know as you're practicing the weekly summaries of what we did that week. What you'll get out of this is love and acceptance and such a peace and stillness. Baby Larsen, baby, what do you hope those watching, what do you know those watching will get?
Well, as we've been talking about with this teaching, it's something to connect you to your heart, and to, as I always practice with my clients, and when I do group work, it's always about withdrawing energy from our thinking and allowing that energy, that life force, to be with our body and be with our heart. And I'm so encouraged these days because everywhere I look and everywhere I listen, everyone's talking about a heart-centered approach to life. And so I think this is a very powerful teaching for beginning this journey of taking your attention and withdrawing it from all your thinking and all your judgments and all your, all the activity going on up here, and begin allowing some of that to rest with your body, and more importantly, to rest with your heart. And as you energize your heart, as you bring your heart to life, in a sense, there's so much wisdom and guidance and intelligence coming from there that would then be yours to use on your journey, whether it's navigating daily life or making big decisions about to change a career or to make a shift with your relationship, whatever that is. Being led by your heart or having access to the wisdom and intelligence of your heart is so critical. That is my wish for everyone here, is to begin a journey of entering the heart, of being led and guided by the heart.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Greg Roach, what are you intending for all of those that are watching to get from this?
For me, the Course is kind of confounding still. When I first encountered it, I was deeply confounded, especially early on, where it's drawing into question the functioning of your mind, and it's pointing out what you think you don't really know. What you think is reality is not really reality. That's a difficult thing to grapple with, and so for me, I think just the idea of kind of fellowship, if you will, or personship, where we all share this passage, this journey together. And because it is so confounding, I'm really eager to revisit it yet again with a fresh set of eyes, and to explore it, with the two of you, and along with all the people that are going to be joining us. So, in this regard, I guess my motivation is ultimately selfish, because I want to be able to recapture my own experience. But I guess for me, that's my hope, is that we can kind of all join hands and move through the confounding portions of this process to be able to reach that place of reward, because the system really does work. I mean, when I say system, the Course really does work. But you have to reach this point of trust, and I think that can be maybe a little daunting. So I'm hoping we can all, go through that together and arrive at that place of trust and knowing, and reach that stage of transformation that's awaiting us a little bit further down the road. So
So that's so beautiful. And I know so many people that read it and start it every year and read it again and again and get something new out of it every single time. And that's been my experience as well. And I started with the lessons and reading the book. And I really recommend starting with the lessons day to day. And then also the way that I like to read is going through various parts in the book, the beginning, and then some area that I'm called to read or tap on. And so how do you like to read it, Greg Larsen?
Well, this is how I'm going to read it, is following these lessons. You know, the lessons that when I was reviewing them are just so practical, and they're so, what I would say, kind of hard-hitting. It gets right to the point, and it's like, wow, we're going to shake up your reality, and let's open up some layers and present something new to you. And so I've already been kind of transformed going through it, just reading these lessons, the first few that we're going to discuss today. So I can already tell it's going to be a very powerful journey. And as you know, Greg was saying, I'm welcoming everyone and so encouraged by this community we're going to build around this to explore this together, and through our communal energy, our group consciousness, further enhance this transformation we're going to experience.
Beautiful. And Greg, how do you recommend people read and participate?
Well, you know, for me, I really like the website. So I'm a high-tech guy. Like, I've got the app, you know, I get daily reminders, and I get my lesson sort of pushed to me, you know. I like the ACIM.org website, and I like the audio that they've recorded. You know, there's somebody's voice that reads the daily lesson, and it sounds like something from the Dharma Initiative. Or it reminds me of the kind of person that you'd hear narrating a film strip from when you were in elementary school. Something about the quality of that person's, that voice, that guy's voice, that I just really love, you know? And so for me, that's what I do, is, you know, every day I listen to the lessons online.
Beautiful. And I love that too. And the Course in Miracles, it's acim.org, and they've got lesson to lesson. And I think I am ready to start with Course in Miracles lesson 1. And I'm so excited to hear how you each relate to this, which is lesson 1. Nothing I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place, means anything. And the way that they recommend that you do this lesson is to really look slowly around you, practice applying this idea very specifically to whatever it is you see, and then to look further. One of the key things about this, each of the first 3 lessons that we're going to go over, which it mentions on the bottom of the page, is each of the first 3 lessons should not be done more than twice a day, each day, preferably in the morning and evening, nor should they be attempted at a rushed or at a too leisurely of a pace. It's just a comfortable sense that comes. And so, Greg Roach, what do you think of this first lesson? Nothing I see in this room. What comes up for you means anything.
Well, you know, this one, I remember when I first encountered it, it just rocked me back on my heels. And baby, when you refer to this as being, you know, hard-hitting, like right out of the gate, it's just boom, you know. This is fascinating because to me this lesson, you know, and the whole first kind of section, if you will, that deconstructs what we think of as reality. It has a very sort of Zen koan-like quality to it. There's this, again, I remember being confounded, you know, going through it, and you know, and you start out at the level of mentation. You know, you think the thoughts that you've been instructed to think. Nothing I see in this room means anything. That stapler doesn't mean anything. This computer doesn't mean anything. But after a while, you start to move into a deeper place of understanding about what this lesson is illuminating. And one of the things that I started doing as sort of an adjunct to it was I would project myself at a microscopic level onto the surface of whatever it was that I was seeing. And suddenly, experience or conceive of reality as reconstituted from within a radically different frame of perception. If the object in question is this pin, and I'm doing my best to get beyond the mental construct that I have about the idea of pins and this pin and what does this pin mean, and suddenly I'm on this pin and it's the size of a planet, then that, for me, that was the kind of little perceptual breakthrough that let me begin to activate this lesson a little bit more and move it out of the abstract realm of just thinking about the thinking and moving it into a different realm of beginning to perceive differently. Because that's what I think, certainly all of these early lessons are about, perceiving differently, understanding differently.
That's so beautiful. And Greg, thank you for sharing that. I love that we're using our imagination even more so to go dive in and experience the nothing, no meaning. Nothing in this room means anything. And so, Greg, what did that mean for a baby? What did that mean for you, this first lesson?
Yeah, well, it's so funny because it's such like I said, hard hitting, and when I forget which teacher I've come across who said this, but basically the way it's described is we're meaning-making machine. When we grow up in this culture and within our families and our school systems and our jobs and all stuff like that, we're forced to make meaning of everything. And then we just embrace that, and all of a sudden we become automatic meaning-making machines. We're just walking around judging everything and comparing everything, and this is good and that's bad, and you're right and I'm wrong, or you're wrong and I'm right, I should have said. And so basically, it just really tries to open up or peel back that layer, but that's such a tight layer. I can see, like you were saying, Greg, you kind of stumbled right away. You're like, oh my God, or you're confounded. It's like, what? It doesn't mean anything. What does that mean? It's like, wow, it's so powerful. And so, but that's what it is. We're meaning-making machines, and we have to be kind of punched a little bit to be woken up from that. That we're giving everything meaning. We're making, like you were saying, pens. I walk into Office Depot and I'm looking for a certain kind of pen. And if they don't have it in stock, I'm like, oh my God, I can't write. I won't be able to work. It's like I go into panic because they don't have my specific pen. Obviously, I've made a whole lot of meaning around that. And I start wandering the store looking for an end cap that has my favorite pen. And so it's just, a great wake-up call to pay attention to this fact that we are making the meaning. And in doing so, we're creating a lot of self-suffering, a lot of self-sabotage, and a lot of self-inflicted pain.
That's so beautiful. And I think that lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3 can really be put together. Lesson 2 is I've given everything in this room all the meaning it has for me. And lesson 3 is I do not understand anything in this room I see in this room, and actually these thoughts do not mean anything. All 4 of the first 4 lessons kind of got summarized right there, and I think back to the time Baby and I are married, Greg, Larsen and I called while I was in the Grand Canyon, and right during that time I was going through and learning about jealousy. I was a jealous person. I had never stayed in a relationship long enough for me to face the green-eyed monster. If jealousy came up or if a behavior of mine came up that I didn't like, I would just leave the relationship and I would run to another city or another state until the point in time that I set up all these rules for why I couldn't be in a relationship. It's whenever I met the ugly parts of myself I didn't want to face. And I remember going through these first few lessons And I got, when I was in the Grand Canyon, and I called Greg, and he was supposed to be at home by himself. And I was with my girlfriend and my brother and Greg and I, our 2 kids, and I called back, and I thought I heard a woman in the background. And my mind went crazy. And my girlfriend and I were kind of processing this. We were doing the Course in Miracles and really how I was making meaning out of things and how I was adding things. And then when I came back, we had this dish in our house that had a picture of our wedding on it. Like a picture laminated dish. And during the course of us being away, Greg was cleaning or he was doing something, and he knocked this dish off, and the dish was like cracked. And here was this dish that was cracked, and I had all of these thoughts running in my head, and I was in this relationship that's really, really meaningful to me, and at the same time I was battling my inner demons. And these first 4 lessons really helped me be able to transition and see, oh my God, I'm giving everything meaning. Whereas before, a cracked dish in my house with an image of our wedding, separating us, the crack right down the middle, might have been grounds for like a 6-week trip to New Orleans, and consulting with my parents and talking with people very seriously, because I had given so much meaning to a crack in a dish, or I had let my imagination run wild, and it was just the internet in the background when I called. Greg was listening to some webinar in the background, and it was a woman's voice, but all of those things and all of those forms of expression and all of the ways that I had of keeping myself separate from the love that was constantly available between us were kind of eliminated a little bit. I built a little bit of a muscle based on these first 4 lessons, which is, nothing in this room means anything. And then moving into lesson number 2, I have given everything I see in this room all the meaning that it has for me. And then lesson number 3, I do not understand anything I see in this room. And lesson number 4, these thoughts do not mean anything. I just repeated those 4 during this really difficult time, emotionally and spiritually for myself. And as loving as my husband is, and he didn't have the words to convey, you can trust me, the way that I needed to build trust within myself. And so these first 4 lessons really helped me build trust with something unseen or unknown beyond myself, because nothing means anything, and I have given everything meaning. Is there, I ran through those very, very quickly, Greg Roach. I'd love for you to cover lesson number 2. I've given everything I see in this room all the meaning that it has for me. I'd love for you to also cover lesson number 3. I do not understand anything I see in this room. And number 4, lesson number 4, these thoughts do not mean anything.
Well, actually, I think that those 4 lessons together, it's a perfect node. They fit, they mesh together so beautifully, and it's just such a broadside on to our ego. It's like a harpoon to the ego. Those first 4, the realization that, hey, it's an inside job. Whatever is happening in your life, whatever you're grappling with, it's an inside job. And baby, you said it so beautifully earlier about the levels of self-sabotage and self-suffering that we subject ourselves to. And Sarah, that was a terrific example of exactly what we do. I think there's a deeper, almost kind of ontological sense to these first four lessons. On the one hand, yes, absolutely. When we experience some emotional turmoil, and it's connected with something in our lives, and there's something in our environment that, for instance, is emblematic of that. That's happening at a really high emotional level. I think the lessons cut even more deeply into the true nature of reality. Like this pin, in truth, it is a system of coherent energy and information that is a universe unto itself. The idea that it's just a pin and that it's used for certain things and blah, 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 these are all things that I've put onto this universe of information and energy. And this is just one little tiny shard of the universe, true universe that we are, awash in. So I think that, on the one hand, these four lessons cut to a really deep aspect about our perception of reality. And then, as you both said, those things that we're grappling with in our lives, it is an inside job. And we have to own that. We have to become aware of it, and we have to take responsibility for it. And then, of course, one of the other things to me is, and this is maybe a little bit trickier, in the Buddhist sense, we want to run from that which causes pain, and we go towards that which gives us pleasure. We want to characterize this stuff in terms of suffering. Like, oh, here's something that makes me suffer. In truth, this suffering is going on in my mind. I can discharge that if I can come to understand this lesson. But the other side to that is that, even the joyous things are also constructs inside of our mental realm. And you can't discard one without discarding them both. But ultimately, it's only when you're able to discard all of that that you can come to a place of true freedom. And again, this sort of speaks to the slightly almost irrational quality that aspects of the Course, embodies. Because we've got to disentangle ourselves from our egos. And that's not just in a psychological sense, that's in the most vital way possible, that we have to get disentangled from our egos. But it's only when we do that, and the ego is what brings us both pleasure and pain, it's only when we do that that we can achieve true freedom. And these first four lessons, this first beautiful little node, is the door's just been cracked open, and now you're looking through into the expanse of what the Course represents.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's so important to hit on the purpose, the pain-avoiding, pleasure-seeking, and sort of those words of suffering. This is, we women give birth, and we have the most maximum amount of pain that you can imagine during childbirth, and many of us will look back at that time and never call it suffering. And we don't call it suffering because there's a purposefulness to it. And one of the things that I've learned from the Course in Miracles is if you can put and wrap your mind around a purpose for any area that you're suffering through in your life, you can then get it into an area of surrender. And so for that, I would never want to cause myself pain by thinking certain repetitive thoughts of jealousy, of hurt, of unworthiness, and yet they automatically come up. And those thoughts automatically come up, and that's one of the things the first four lessons really shows and highlights. And then lesson number 5 really goes into saying, I'm never upset for the reason that I think. And I think that lesson is really bringing in this idea of there's something purposeful happening or occurring. And if we can wrap our mind around child labor purposefully produces a child, so that pain is not seen as pain and suffering. It's seen and surrendered and even welcomed. I've had many girlfriends now through breath work, many people that have experienced orgasmic bursts because they've surrendered to what is. And lesson number 5 is I'm never upset for the reason I think. And it's sort of looking for and examining. It goes on to say this idea, like the preceding one, can be used with any person, situation, or event you think is causing you pain. Apply it specifically to whatever you believe is the cause of your upset, using the description of feelings in whatever terms seem accurate to you. And so it says, I'm not angry at, in that scenario, I'm not angry at Greg or Baby for the reason I think I am. I'm not afraid of losing him or our relationship for the reason I am. The upset may seem to be a fear, a worry, a depression, an anxiety, an anger, hatred, jealousy, or any number of forms, all of which will be perceived as different. And so lesson number 5 goes into sort of looking for the source of the upset, and really looking for sort of a purpose. And I feel the second any pain is associated with or linked with or examined from multiple angles, we can then begin to let go of the meaning or the energy that's in it. And so Baby Larsen, Greg Larsen, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about lesson number 5 and just anything that we've covered so far.
Yeah, well, I was reading a little bit further, and it's, as it says, another part of the practice is there are no small upsets. They're all equally disturbing to my peace of mind. And so that's it right there. The goal is peace of mind, living from the heart, living in the present moment. And then we have these upsets that come along, and whether they're a big one like, oh my God, you did this or did that in our relationship, or whether it's a small one like the pens aren't where they need to be, whatever disturbs your peace of mind, just realize that is doing what it's doing there. Through your thought process, you're giving it meaning, you're making it mean something, and therefore it's, and as you read further in the Course, it's based on conditioning from the past, so it's not upsetting because the pen is missing, it's upsetting because I think this pen is so important to my journaling or my writing, whatever it is, so I'm giving it this, I'm upset not for the reason of it's missing or the reason I think right now, but there's this history or there's all this baggage on top of it. And so why that's important is because I should be in that store with peace of mind and searching for whatever tool I can use that's appropriate and not have all this meaning on it. And so because I have the meaning on it, my peace of mind is upset, and I don't want to live a moment longer than I have to being upset. I'd rather be with you, with our children, with our family, with our friends, with strangers, with people I'm meeting. I'd rather be with everybody in a peace of mind and not approaching life from upset. And one person that comes to mind, is, as I talk about in my book, was my father. And because of our past relationship, he would just be telling a joke or telling a story, but because of our relationship, just sharing something is irritating to me, and I lose my peace of mind and my heart connection with him, and I don't want that. I don't want that in my life for one more second. So it's such a great pointer. Wherever you're losing peace of mind for whatever reason, that's, whether it's big or small, give your attention to that because you're giving it meaning that it doesn't deserve.
And so again, it's about sort of building this muscle. Thank you for sharing that. It's about when the thoughts of your dad come up, it's building that muscle that I'm never upset for the reason that I think I am.
That's right.
And so it dives into lesson number 6. I'm upset because I see something that is not there. And Greg Roach, I'd love for you to talk about upset, this sort of lesson number 5, lesson number 6, as we're moving on. Lesson number 6 again, I'm sorry, let me do that again. I am upset because I see something that is not there.
Well, I remember when I first encountered these 2 lessons, how upset they made me.
These are upsetting lessons, yes.
They are. They are. It's like, what the hell do you mean? Of course I'm upset for the reasons I think I'm upset, you know? And, you know, I guess, again, you know, for me, these 2 lessons are a reminder about the dangers of the ego. Once again, not in a psychological sense, but, you know, it's like there's this part of you that's like this 2-year-old, you know, and it's got to have its way. It's got to have its way. You know, no, I know myself. I know what's going on up here. I know why I'm upset. How dare you tell me that I'm wrong, that I'm not upset for the reasons that I believe that I am, you know? But of course, this is really pointing out to us, again, is our embrace of delusion, our embrace of the illusion about what the is really going on, you know, both in the world supposedly outside of us and in the world inside of us, and that false identification. And, you know, Greg, that was really, you're absolutely right about, you know, losing your peace of mind and losing your equilibrium. You know, there are no half measures in this regard. You know, either you have it or you don't. And you know, we have this tendency, we want to kind of parse experience up and say, oh, well, yeah, I was upset at the person that cut me off in traffic, but I got over it. But I'm upset that, you know, that my mom is sick. I'm really upset about that. But in truth, all of those things, if they move us from the point of love, from the point of being centered in the truth of our shared life and our shared experience and the one heart that runs through, you know, all of existence, then they're co-equal in this regard. And so yeah, but I remember being really upset by these 2 lessons when I first.
I love that you're sharing that. Now I just want to share the Course's definition of ego. And I think that's really important. The way that I define it is anything that keeps me separate, or ego is something that I will use if I'm feeling hurt, or if I'm feeling something that is not peace. I've then separated myself. It's the Course defines it as the belief in the reality of the separatedness or false self, made as a substitute for the self which God created. So there's the God self, the one that was created, and that self is in a reality. That self always exists in a reality of connected to God and connected to everything. And so anytime that I'm hurt, or I'm sad, or I'm angry, that is an emotion of fear that separates me from my God self. So the ego, again defined by the Course in Miracles, is the thought of separation that gives rise to sin, gives rise to guilt, gives rise to fear, and a thought system based on specialness to protect itself. If I feel offended or hurt, I know my ego has been triggered. If there's some energy coming out, it's that part of the mind that believes it's separate from the mind of oneness, or the mind of everything, the mind of love. It's such a complicated sort of definition, so I redefined it as anytime that I'm offended or hurt, that's really my ego speaking. And anytime that I feel expanded or possibility with those that I love or with everyone around me, that's love acting, or that's my God self. the self that God created acting. And
Yeah.
so just because we're talking about ego, I'd love for both of you to share what comes up. Baby, if you'll cover ego.
Yeah, ego is a challenging one because other examples are, it's like the fish in water, not realizing it's in water. It's so a part of who we are. It's very difficult to see what it is and see how it's running our life. And so, and of course, the ego is based in, my understanding is based in thought, and all of our thoughts around, judging and evaluating and determining and, compartmentalizing. It's taking this vast miracle of life and making it, into something that can be understood, but then not only understood, but judged. And then a lot of times it's, my sense of the ego is that it's being fueled by negativity. And so a lot of times it can be driven by negative thoughts or depressing thoughts or upsetting thoughts or disturbing thoughts or whatever that is. And so where it takes us out of our peace of mind. So I think that's a great phrase to kind of help us determine what are egoic thoughts? Or if they're thoughts that are not providing you peace of mind, then they're probably egoic thoughts. And so it's a tough one because there's lots of definitions for the ego, but it's basically, if our thoughts are not allowing us to feel peaceful, to feel loved, to feel connected, then they're most likely egoic thoughts. Or if those thoughts are negative or judgmental, then those are negative or egoic thoughts. And you were pointing to it earlier, Sarah, and you said, to me, I think it was Wayne Dyer said that if I feel offended, it's the ego. So, there's pointers that allow us to know that, what's happening now is thinking created by my ego. And so there's lots of good pointers out there. And I like this one here. Anything disturbing my peace of mind is an egoic thought then.
That's beautiful. And Greg Roach, I'd love for you to chime in.
Well, I think you've both illuminated it really, really nicely. It is such a complex thing, and there are so many different definitions for it. There's the classic Freudian idea, about the ego, the id, the superego, and going back to those two lessons. Well, I'm not upset for the reasons that I think. No, I'm upset because Jim said something mean to me. That's what I'm upset about. No, that is something that's locked in the ego perception, the perception of separateness. You're upset because you are dwelling in this illusion about the separateness of you from everything else around you. And the ego is a kind of a stark necessity, and I find it a little ironic that we spend all of our early formative years kind of growing one. And you got to have it. Well, what can you do? You can't get by in the world without it. But it's in just the same way that we need a body, and yet the body can be its own kind of prison and its own trap of illusion. And so the trick, I think, is to understand it for what it is, to love it for what it does for us, because it would be incredibly difficult to get by in the world without a body or without an ego, or but to shift our point of identification from those things. So I'm not my body, I'm not my ego, I'm not my voice, I'm not just the activity of my neurons, and you could go on. I'm not my growing fingernails. There's a long list of things that you can put on.
Yes, that's so beautiful. And those last those lessons are so lovely for bringing in lesson number 7. Lesson number 7 is I see only the past. And I think that's such a beautiful thing to really own for ourselves. We don't see the world as it is. We are the sum of the way that we see things, the sum experiences of everything that we've heard, everything that's come before us. And so that lesson number 7, I see only the past. And what was it like when you first came to this one? Greg Roach.
For me, I went, the hell are these people talking about? This doesn't make any sense. Well, I only see the past. No, I see, the present. But I do. I think this functions on so many levels. And for me, still, probably the most powerful portion of the whole course is this first 7. This seed that the whole crystalline structure kind of grows out of and grows around. Because as Baby said, it is just such an affront to what we think we know. It's just like a punch in the forehead, And so I love the fact that it does function on so many levels. If I am looking at the lamp here in my office, I am in fact seeing the light from a past event. Now, because light travels so quickly, it's whatever, 1/1 billionth of a second ago, but regardless, that's still the past. And of course we have these really, dramatic examples where you look at the night sky and you understand, oh, I'm seeing the light from these stars from literally billions of years ago. It's possible I'm seeing a star in the heavens that no longer exists because the light from the event of its quote-unquote death hasn't yet reached me. So, the lesson functions at that, like, raw level, at that very basic, like, primal level. But then it also functions in the sense of our own experience of, what am I doing? I'm constructing meaning around what I think I see based on all of my past experiences with this thing, my associations with it, my ideas about it. Oh, I remember as a kid when I, got burned on a light bulb on my dad's desk lamp, so there's a little bit of fear about that thing, or whatever the case may be. But regardless, there is a space of separation between my perceptions. I was going to say myself, but that's not accurate. There's a space of separation between my perceptions and the truth. And once that pebble drops, once that penny drops, it just starts to ripple out and out and out and out and out.
So that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And that I love your sharing of quantum physics and also of science in there, which is one of the things that I loved learning in medical school was how far can the eyes see? And when you think of the night sky, it's seeing or a space without valleys and mountains. You can see light years away, and and this really speaks to the Course in Miracles as well. We are these amazing creatures, amazing beings that have forgotten who we actually are, our own power, our own love. And right here, I think one of those, the opposite of seeing the past is really Greg Larsen, Baby Larsen, seeing and experiencing love, the knowledge, the essence of God's being in relationship to His creations, which is unchanging and eternal and beyond definition and teaching. That's how the Course in Miracles describes it. Love can only be experienced or known once the barrier of guilt has been removed through forgiveness. And then love, the true perception, impossible in the illusionary world of perception, yet expressed here through forgiveness, the emotion given by God, in contrast to the emotion, the ego's emotion of fear. And that ego's emotion of fear keeps us separate, whereas love is reflected in any expression of true joining with another. And baby, I know in the short number of years that we've been doing this work together, I know love because you love me and I love you. And I know this that this lesson of this seventh lesson, I see only the past has really had special meaning in our relationship. So I'd love for you to just share a little bit around love and this lesson?
Well, for those who are listening and you just cannot believe this, I will give you just a little morsel of hope to chew on. Is that you know, when I'm thinking, when I was reading this, what came to me is that I remember climbing in the mountains in the state of Washington, the Cascade Mountains, and as I'm climbing along the pass, thinking about all these thoughts, I look up and there is a peak, and for a moment or two, I'm awestruck, and there's no thoughts. And in that moment of no thoughts, there's no past. And so, in a sense, there is a place in life where there is no past, but there's no thoughts there also. But of course, as soon as I come back into my head, I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful mountain, but it's probably not as nice as that one over there. But I bet you the Himalayas are even more stunning. And oh my gosh, I got to get back to camp because I got to, you know. Then you get into the mind, and as soon as you go into your thoughts, then you're stuck in the past because all of your thoughts are based in the past. And so that's why it rings so true. If you live your life in your mind, in your thoughts, your life is being lived from the past, and in a sense you're only seeing the past. And it's only those brief moments when you're awestruck by a child or a mountain or a sunset where there's no thoughts that you're in the present moment. And so, but that's what the Course is leading us to, is to bust out of being dominated by the mind and controlled by the mind, and as you said earlier, Sarah, the fear, and moving from that into love. And when we're in love, that's when thoughts weigh less on us. And when we're living from that space, we can, you know, see less of the past and more of what's right in front of us, which is the miracle of life. That's what A Course in Miracles is all about.
So beautiful. And wow, I'm so excited about the next lessons that we're going to do as well. Just hearing the way that this has been shared. We're coming to the end of our time together, and so for this first week with the Course in Lessons, the Course in Miracles, and the lessons that we've gone through, Greg Roach, what would you love to leave everyone with until our next meeting?
I'm going to encourage people to keep going. You know, again, this first 7 lessons for me were so confounding that I was ready to walk away. I was ready to be like, okay, this is crazy. I can't take it. It made my brain hurt, you know. But so to trust it, you know, trust that the millions of people that have you know, been through this experience, all of the lives that have been transformed by it, that there is real effectiveness here. And this is early on, you know, we're just 7 days in, and despite the fact that your brain probably does hurt, you know, and 7 lessons, you know, keep going. So, you know, I went to the gym this afternoon, and I always kind of, and you know, it's like religion for me, and has been for years. But I always kind of dread like January, February a little bit, because there's so many people that are doing their New Year's resolutions, which is great. God bless them. But so that there are twice as many people in the gym as you know, in June, for instance. And I could see a couple people, and I'm like, oh, you're gonna hurt tomorrow, you know, like slow down. It's, you know, those weights aren't going anywhere. So there's a little bit of that sense of, you know, it's like, oh man, God, I'm gonna be sore tomorrow after these first 7 lessons, but just keep going.
Beautiful. Baby Larsen, honey, what would you like to leave everyone with?
Well, you know what? I think it's so auspicious that 2015 is the 50th anniversary for A Course in Miracles. And so not only are we doing this together and on this journey together, but it's a very auspicious year for the Course. So if you haven't been able to connect with it before, now's the time. It's a very energetic time for jumping in. So jump on in, and if you get sore, don't walk away from it yet. As Greg was saying, your muscles will heal, and as you do that, you'll begin training your mind in a very powerful way to begin looking for love, and not so much looking at life from the past and looking through a very judgmental framework. So stick with it and allow the Course to work its magic, and hopefully we can be awesome guides for you on this journey.
Awesome. I want to thank both of you guys for being here and doing this, and for every person listening. This is the Course in Miracles, and the commitment that it takes is really about giving to yourself. Whether it's this or some other teaching, truly everything you experience comes through your senses and your experience. And so far, the Course in Miracles is really breaking down in these lessons a new way to examine and experience things. And someone who's done this, I really want you to know it gets easier. Your inner dialogue, and my inner dialogue really had a lot, very little self-worth before I learned the true meaning of love, the true meaning of the lessons that we are sharing here. And so if you're here and you've heard us, we're here for you. We love you. I love you because I've experienced the miracles in my life and gotten to that space of really understanding oneness at the highest level that I've known myself to experience it. And I want what I've experienced for you. I have a really happy marriage. I have a thriving practice. I have brilliant children. And before I started the Course in Miracles, those were things that I couldn't imagine giving myself or receiving because I didn't feel worthy. I felt a sense of guilt and shame. And I was highly defensive and scared. And so on the other side of that, I think I could never have shared that I'd accomplished all of these things without feeling guilt about sharing it as well. So I'm so excited for you to be on this journey with us because I want you to have the life that you intended yourself to have. And that life is really available for you with being able to chisel away the thoughts and the energies that keep you from the miracles that are available moment to moment. And so we will see you next week, and all of our contact information will be below. So you can reach out to us. We're here to help you. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
A great start.
Yeah.